Time for work. 3 words. That's all Shedeur Sanders posted Wednesday afternoon, minutes after the Cleveland Browns announced Todd Monken as their new head coach. Not a paragraph explaining his feelings, not a thank you message to the organization. Just 3 words on his Instagram story, accompanied by fire emojis and his signature watch emoji. Simple, direct, confident, and it set the NFL world on fire. Because while Browns fans were melting down over hiring a 60-year-old first-time NFL head coach, while Jim Schwartz was walking out of the building visibly upset, while national media questioned whether this was the worst hire Cleveland could have made, Shedeur Sanders looked at Todd Monken's name and said, "Let's get to work." No hesitation, no doubt, just pure belief that this offensive-minded coach, who helped Lamar Jackson win MVP in 2023, is exactly what he needs to unlock his potential. But then, Emmanuel Acho, the former NFL player turned Fox Sports analyst, dropped a bombshell that made everyone stop scrolling. If I'm Shedeur or anybody in that locker room, why am I listening to Todd Monken? What have you won on an NFL level as a head coach? And suddenly, Shedeur Sanders' 3-word message wasn't just optimism, it was defiance, a statement that no matter what the critics say, no matter what doubters think, he's ready to prove everyone wrong under Todd Monken's leadership, and the NFL world is absolutely buzzing. Hit that subscribe button right now because this story is about to expose the wildest 24 hours in Browns history. This isn't just about Shedeur reacting to Monken. This is about Emmanuel Acho telling him to ignore his new coach, the NFL world debating whether a 60-year-old can develop a struggling rookie, and whether Shedeur Sanders just saved Todd Monken's credibility before he even coached a game. Let's start with the moment that went viral. Wednesday, January 28, 2026, around 2 p.m. Eastern, the Browns officially announced Todd Monken as their 19th full-time head coach. Within minutes, the team's social media posted a graphic welcoming Monken to Cleveland, and Shedeur Sanders, the 5th-round rookie quarterback who made the Pro Bowl despite historically bad EPA metrics, immediately reposted it to his Instagram story. Time for work. Fire. Watch. That's it. No long caption, no thank you Jimmy Haslam, no shout out to Andrew Berry. Just time for work. And the fire emoji with the watch emoji, which is a reference to his song Perfect Timing that he released during his Colorado days. Subtle, confident, and perfectly Shedeur. ESPN Cleveland's Twitter account captured the screenshot and tweeted it out. Shedeur Sanders welcomed Todd Monken to Cleveland. Eyes, eyes, eyes. The eyes emojis, the implication. Everyone knew what this meant. Shedeur is all in on Monken. He's not worried about the age. He's not concerned about the lack of NFL head coaching experience. He's ready to work. And that optimism, coming from a quarterback who struggled mightily in his rookie season, sent a message to Browns fans. Maybe this hire isn't as bad as you think. Maybe Monken is exactly what Shedeur needs. Maybe, just maybe, this works. Sports Illustrated's Kristen Wong reported that Shedeur appeared excited about the new hire based on the Instagram post. And she's right, because if Shedeur was skeptical, if he had doubts, he wouldn't have posted anything. He would have stayed silent, let the noise die down. But instead, he immediately endorsed Monken publicly. That's not just polite, that's strategic. Shedeur knows his social media presence carries weight. He has millions of followers. Every post he makes generates headlines, and by posting "time for work" within minutes of the announcement, he's sending a message not just to fans, but to Todd Monken himself. I'm ready. I believe in you. Let's do this. But then, the controversy started. Because while Shedeur was posting fire emojis, Emmanuel Acho was on Fox Sports' Speakeasy podcast, absolutely destroying the hire. Any expectation for Shedeur Sanders under Todd Monken, I believe, will lead to disappointment. There is nothing about Todd Monken as a head coach that should get you excited, Acho said. As an offensive coordinator, you could say Lamar Jackson had an MVP season under Todd Monken, but as a head coach, no. Nothing about Todd Monken as a head man gets me excited. How is Todd Monken going to command that locker room, command that group of men? Also, if I'm Shedeur or anybody in that locker room, why am I listening to Todd Monken? What have you won on an NFL level as a head coach? I don't even have expectations for Shedeur under Todd Monken, because I believe any expectations I would have, he would not meet. Read that again. Acho is telling Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback who just went 3-4 as a starter, to not listen to his head coach, a head coach who just helped Lamar Jackson win MVP, a head coach who built the #1 offense in football in 2024 when the Ravens became the first team ever to throw for 4,000 yards and rush for 3,000 in the same season. And Acho's advice is, why should Shedeur listen to him? It's one of the most absurd takes in recent NFL media history, and the backlash was swift and brutal. Fans on social media destroyed Acho. If I'm Shedeur, I'm listening to as many people with knowledge as I can. We can see why Acho didn't last long, one fan tweeted. Another wrote, "This is some of the worst logic I've ever heard." A third said, "Emmanuel Acho telling a struggling rookie QB to ignore his offensive-minded head coach who just helped an MVP quarterback is peak bad advice." The criticism was unanimous because what Acho is suggesting is career suicide. If Shedeur Sanders walks into the Browns facility next month with the attitude of, "Why should I listen to Todd Monken?" his NFL career is over. Coaches don't tolerate insubordination. Teammates don't respect quarterbacks who think they're above coaching, and organizations don't invest in players who create locker room division.
But Acho doubled down. He questioned how Monken would command the locker room. He pointed out that Monken has never been an NFL head coach. He dismissed his resume because it's mostly offensive coordinator experience. And he essentially said Shedeur Sanders should have zero expectations under Monken because Monken will fail. That's not analysis, that's sabotage. And the fact that it came from a former NFL player who should know better makes it even worse. Because Acho played 7 seasons in the league, he knows how coaching hierarchies work. He knows what happens to players who don't respect their coaches. And yet, he went on national television and told a 23-year-old rookie to ignore his brand new head coach. It's irresponsible, it's reckless, and it puts Shedeur in an impossible position. Because now, every time Shedeur interacts with Todd Monken, every quote he gives, every practice clip that surfaces, media will be analyzing it for signs that he's not listening. They'll ask him directly, "Emmanuel Acho said you shouldn't listen to Todd Monken. What's your response?" And Shedeur will have to navigate that circus while trying to prove he's an NFL-caliber quarterback. Thanks, Emmanuel. Real helpful. But here's the fascinating twist. Todd Monken reportedly wanted to draft Shedeur Sanders when he was the Ravens' offensive coordinator. According to multiple reports, Baltimore considered taking Sanders at pick 141, just 3 picks ahead of where Cleveland drafted him at 144. The Ravens had just lost to Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. They needed a backup quarterback behind Lamar Jackson, and Monken, who evaluates quarterbacks for a living, saw something in Shedeur that made him push for the pick. The Ravens ultimately passed, and Cleveland swooped in. But the connection was there. Monken liked Shedeur before he ever coached him, and now, 7 months later, they're reunited in Cleveland. That's not a coincidence. That's destiny. Deion Sanders, Shedeur's father, reportedly discouraged the Ravens from drafting his son because he didn't want Shedeur sitting behind Lamar Jackson for a decade. That's a smart decision. Lamar is 28 years old and a 2-time MVP. He's not going anywhere. Shedeur would have been buried on the depth chart for years. But in Cleveland, Shedeur has a real shot. Deshaun Watson didn't play in 2025 and might not be on the roster in 2026. Dylan Gabriel started 6 games as a rookie and showed flashes, but nothing definitive. The Browns have the 6th overall pick and could draft Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore, but neither is a slam dunk. Shedeur, for all his struggles, is in the best position to win the starting job, especially with Todd Monken, a coach who wanted to draft him, now calling the shots.
Andrew Berry, the Browns' general manager, tried to remain non-committal about Shedeur's future. I think we saw a lot of progress with Shedeur this year. That's both mentally, physically playing the position. That all being said, we're going to do our work on the quarterback market. It's too important of a position, and it's something that has to be solidified. I can't sit here and tell you today whether the starter in 2026 is internal or external. Translation, we're not locked into Shedeur, but we're not ruling him out either. And that's exactly where Shedeur wants to be, in the conversation, not guaranteed, but competing. And with Todd Monken's offensive system, he has a legitimate chance to win the job. Because Monken's offense is perfect for Shedeur's skill set. It's built around play action, which Shedeur excelled at in college. It emphasizes quick decision-making and getting the ball out fast, which mitigates pressure and compensates for a weak offensive line. And it uses motion and misdirection to create easy throws, which is exactly what a struggling young quarterback needs. Compare that to Kevin Stefanski's offense, which was rigid, predictable, and required the quarterback to hold the ball longer than the offensive line could protect. Stefanski's system failed Shedeur. Monken's system could save him. The stats back this up. In Baltimore, Monken's offense ranked second in rushing yards per game and 11th in points per game over 3 seasons. They ranked first in total yards in 2024 at 424.9 yards per game. And Lamar Jackson won MVP in 2023, throwing 41 touchdowns with just 7 interceptions. That's elite quarterback development. And if Monken can extract even 70% of that production from Shedeur, the Browns' offense goes from worst in the NFL to respectable overnight. Shedeur's rookie season was rough, no question. He completed 56.6% of his passes for 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. His passer rating was 68.1. His QBR was 18.9. Pro Football Focus graded him at 42 out of 43 eligible quarterbacks, and Jason Lloyd of The Athletic reported that Shedeur had the worst EPA per dropback of any quarterback since 2000. Those numbers are catastrophic, but context matters. The Browns' offense was ranked 31st in scoring. The offensive line was decimated. The wide receiver room was among the worst in football, and Shedeur was thrown into a starting role in Week 12 after sitting for 10 games behind Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel. He had no time to prepare, no offseason with the first team, no training camp reps. And yet he still closed the season with back-to-back wins over Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, then Joe Burrow and the Bengals. That's not a fluke, that's growth.
Todd Monken's first job is evaluating the quarterback room, watching film, talking to Shedeur, Gabriel, and Watson, putting them through drills, and determining who fits his system best. If he believes Shedeur can execute his offense, the Browns won't draft a quarterback at 6. They'll use that pick on an offensive tackle or a wide receiver and invest in building around Shedeur. But if Monken watches the tape and decides Shedeur isn't the answer, Cleveland will draft Fernando Mendoza and Shedeur becomes a backup. That's the crossroads. And Shedeur's time for work message is him saying, I'm ready for this evaluation. I'm confident in my ability, and I believe you'll see what I can do. The national media reaction has been split. Some analysts praised Shedeur for embracing Monken immediately. Others questioned whether he understands the stakes. But the overwhelming consensus is that Shedeur handled this perfectly. He could have stayed silent. He could have let others shape the narrative. Instead, he took control. He posted optimism. He endorsed his new coach. And he sent a message to Browns fans that he's locked in. That's leadership. That's maturity, and it's exactly what Cleveland needs from their potential franchise quarterback. The NFL world is buzzing because this isn't just a quarterback welcoming a new coach. This is Shedeur Sanders, the most polarizing player in football, publicly aligning himself with Todd Monken, the most controversial hire of the coaching cycle. It's a partnership that could either resurrect 2 struggling careers or become the biggest disaster in Browns history. There's no middle ground. Either Monken develops Shedeur into a franchise quarterback and both become heroes in Cleveland, or they fail spectacularly and both get run out of town within 2 years. Those are the only 2 outcomes, and the clock starts now. Jim Schwartz walking out complicates everything, because if the defense collapses, if Myles Garrett requests a trade, if Cleveland goes 3-17 in 2026, no amount of quarterback development will matter.
The pressure on Todd Monken to fix the offense while replacing an elite defensive coordinator is suffocating. And Shedeur, whether he realizes it or not, is now tied to Monken's success. If Monken fails, Shedeur fails. And if Shedeur fails, his NFL career might be over before it really begins.
But if it works, if Monken's offensive system unlocks Shedeur's potential, if the Browns use their 2 first-round picks to build an offensive line and add weapons, if Shedeur takes a leap in year 2 and becomes a legitimate starting quarterback, then time for work becomes the quote that defined a turnaround. The moment Shedeur Sanders chose to believe in himself and his new coach despite everyone telling him it wouldn't work. And Emmanuel Acho's terrible advice becomes a footnote in a success story. That's the dream. That's the hope. And based on Shedeur's Instagram post, he's all in on making it happen. This story is based on reports from Sports Illustrated, ESPN Cleveland, Yahoo Sports, Fox Sports, Dogs by Nature, and various outlets covering Shedeur Sanders' reaction to Todd Monken's hire and the NFL world's response.